I want to just talk about that for a moment in a way that perhaps will be interesting to you. There always are false prophets, always false teachers. We know that. Always people who claim to be Jesus, claim to be Jesus Christ, some more notable than others. But as you get to the end of human history and you get into the period of time called the tribulation, there is a specific fulfillment of this prophecy that I want you to understand. And it has to do with Islam. Most people think of Islam as an utterly distinct religion from Christianity, with no connection to Christianity. We would think that if someone is a Muslim, they have absolutely no connection to Christianity. And there are many religions that have no connection to Christianity. Hinduism has no connection to Christianity. Buddhism has no connection to Christianity. Many others have no connection. It's amazing how many do connect, because Satan wants to counterfeit and deceive and get as close to the truth as he can. There are actually confessed evangelical people who think that Muslims not only believe in God because they are monotheists, believing in one God, but who think that Muslims are okay because they actually believe in Jesus. And by the way, they do. Brian McLaren, an emerging church heretic writer, in his book, The Secret Message of Jesus, says, and I quote, "All Muslims regard Jesus as a great prophet. A shared reappraisal of Jesus' message could provide a common ground for urgently needed religious dialogue. This reappraisal of Jesus may be our only way of saving a number of religions, including Christianity," end quote. So, if we want to save Christianity and save other religions, we need to all get together, and that should be easy for us to do because we can start with the Muslims because they already believe in Jesus. Popular speaker and author Tony Campolo says, quote, "When we listen to the Muslim mystics as they talk about Jesus and their love for Jesus, I must say it's a lot closer to New Testament Christianity than a lot of Christians." Really?
It is a common occurrence to find many Muslims, most especially Muslim apologists, claiming to believe in Jesus Christ and asserting that Jesus was a Muslim.
The question was, of course, you heard, what was the religion of Jesus? The religion of Jesus was Islam. The religion of Moses was Islam. The religion of all true prophets of God is Islam. Because with Allah, there is only one religion. He says, "Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam."
Correctly, you say any person, whether Christian or Jew, etc., who submits the will to God is a Muslim.
Yeah, as you said about Jesus, he said Jesus is a Muslim for that reason.
But brother, I do agree with you. Anyone who submits the will to God in Arabic, you call him a Muslim.
Dapat yung mga Christian, sumunod sila sa reliyon ni Hesus Kristo, hindi yung reliyon ni Pablo. Kaya yung sinabi ko na yung mali yung aral ng Paul, Pablo. Ano yung religion ni Jesus Christ? Islam. Ano ibig sabihin ng Islam? Sumunod sa utos ng Diyos. Lahat na utos ng Diyos. Yan sabihin ng Islam. So yung si Jesus Christ, religion niya, isa lang Diyos. Religion ni Pablo, ilang Diyos? Ilang Diyos religion ni Pablo? Tatlo. Ama, Anak, Espiritu. Religion ni Jesus, isa lang Diyos. Katulad si religion ni Abraham, katulad din si religion ni Moses, katulad si religion ni Muhammad, isa lang religion, isa lang Diyos.
And as Christians do, Muslims too believe that Jesus Christ is coming back in the last days to play a very important role in God's eschatological plan. What Muslims and Christians believe about Jesus Christ on the surface is superficially similar, but when carefully examined, it is fundamentally different. And which version of Jesus Christ you choose to believe in out of the two has eternal implications and consequences.
So, you think that the Muslim Jesus is the same Jesus? I can help you with that, because they describe Jesus The Muslim Jesus plays a crucial role in Islamic eschatology. Now, you do know that the Muslims have an eschatology. In other words, they have a theology of the end. They know where they're going, according to their writings. They know where they're going. Let me describe the Muslim Jesus to you. This is out of their own writings, the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran is supposedly the word of Allah, actually the word of Satan, but they think it's the word of Allah. The Sunnah are the words of and the works of Muhammad. The Quran then constitutes their holy scripture, and the Sunnah, sometimes called the Hadith, constitutes their holy tradition. Their theology comes out of the Quran and the Sunnah, just as Roman Catholic theology comes out of the Bible and tradition, or Judaism comes out of the Old Testament and rabbinic tradition. The Muslims have two sources of authoritative truth. In their system, they have Jesus. Jesus was a man. He was not God. He did not die. He went to heaven like Elijah. He did not die, therefore he did not rise. He did not die, therefore he did not provide an atonement for anyone, because no one can provide an atonement for anyone else. He is a man. He is a prophet. He is nothing more. He went to heaven like Elijah, and he's in heaven right now, standing alongside Allah, waiting for Allah to send him back. In their system, this man, this prophet Jesus, who is now in heaven, never having died, plays a key role in the end times, because he will return from heaven without dying. He will come back when Allah sends him back. Now the question to ask is, why would Allah want to send Jesus back? He has a lot of prophets to pick from. Why does he send Jesus back? Answer, so that when he shows up, he can correct all the Christians who have misunderstood who he is. Sources for this again, the Quran and the Sunnah. The great event of the coming of Christ, of coming of Jesus, is so that this prophet, this man who comes back, can straighten out the misdirected, misguided, misconceiving Christians who think he was God, who died and rose again and provided atonement. He'll come back and straighten it out. And by the way, after he gets here, he'll get married, have children, and die and be buried next to Muhammad. That's the Muslim Jesus.
Then Jesus will descend on the wings of two angels on a mosque in Damascus, and in Damascus, and he will then go out and find the Antichrist at a place near what is Tel Aviv today, at a place called Lud, and he will thrust a spear into this Antichrist's body, who in the meantime had begun to melt just by seeing Jesus, and the spear would be the final undoing of him. Then Jesus will usher in a period of peace, which is said in Islamic tradition to be lasting for 7 years, after which eventually there will be other signs and tribulations.
Okay, Brother Shabir, this is about what is the Islamic conception of the end of times, what is the Antichrist, and who is Mahdi? So maybe you can talk about all those things.
Yeah, well, in fact, they are related because in Islamic tradition it is mentioned that somewhere towards the end of time, Jesus will descend from the heavens, and that he will rule for a number of years. He will break the cross and kill the swine, and he will abolish the jizya, which is a tax that traditionally was leveled on non-Muslim minorities living under the protection of a Muslim state, and that there will be a time of peace for many years, some say for 7 years. And when Jesus returns, he will slay the Antichrist.
Dr. Shabir, the question we have here is, what happens to Muslims when Christ returns?
So that's an interesting question. In Muslim narratives about eschatology, we have the general understanding that Jesus, on whom be peace, will descend from the heavens. He will arrive in a place near Tel Aviv. He will pray there with the Muslims in a mosque. And the Muslims will offer him to lead the prayer, but he will say, no, imamukum minkum, one of you should be the leader of your group. And after he has prayed with the Muslims, he will go out and he will slay the Antichrist. It's almost, he doesn't have to slay the Antichrist, because in the Muslim narrative, the Antichrist will melt in his presence. Nonetheless, he will spare him as the final blow, and peace would reign for several years. So in this Muslim expectation, Jesus, on whom be peace, is a Muslim himself. He is a submitter to God. He is a prophet and messenger of God. And being now coming back in the current era, he would naturally follow the way that has been taught by our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the universal world prophet. And it's basically the same way that Muslims are already following. So Jesus would fit in nicely among the Muslims, and nothing really would happen to the Muslims.
And there's a second sign, a second person, and it is Jesus. The Mahdi is not Jesus. The Mahdi is greater than Jesus, and that's important to their system, because if you have somebody greater than Jesus, then the Christians were wrong. So Jesus will return. Yes, Muslims believe that Jesus will come again. They believe in the return of Jesus. Not the true Jesus. The Jesus of Islam, not God, didn't die, didn't rise, didn't provide a sacrifice for sin, but he does return. He's a prophet, and he comes back, and he has one purpose when he comes back, and that is to assist and aid the Mahdi. He returns, listen to this, as a radical Muslim. He comes back as a radical Muslim. He will arrive, by the way, at a minaret near Damascus. And he will come back holding the wings of two angels who flew him down to meet the gathering army of the Mahdi in the east, the army of the black flags. Jesus, when he comes back, will pray to the Mahdi, who is greater than he. He will acknowledge the Mahdi as his Lord. He will make a pilgrimage to Mecca. He will worship Allah, and thus he will lead all Christians who will follow him to reject their notion of Jesus and accept the real Jesus, who is nothing but a prophet and a man. He will establish worldwide Sharia law. He will become the greatest Muslim evangelist, and he will be the final witness on the day of judgment against non-Muslims. Christians everywhere will affirm that they were wrong, that the gospel is wrong, the New Testament is wrong. He didn't die, he didn't rise, he isn't God, he isn't the Son of God. He himself will come back and point out how wrong we've been. He will correct all misinterpretations and all misrepresentations. Let me quote what their literature says. He will shatter crosses. That's metaphoric for the destruction of the church, symbol of Christianity being placed in the church. He will kill pigs. He will abolish the tax on non-Muslims because there won't be any living non-Muslims. Can't tax dead people. And then he will do one more thing. He will kill the Islamic Antichrist. He will kill the Islamic Antichrist. Then he will die and be buried by Muhammad, but not until he has destroyed Christianity by revealing who he really is. Who is this? You compare what he does to the false prophet in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, 16, 19, 20 refer to the beasts coming out of the earth, the false prophet, who aids and abets the Antichrist. He is, as the Mahdi is the exact replica of the Antichrist, the Jesus prophet in Islam is the exact parallel to the false prophet who aids and abets the Antichrist. One of their writings says he espouses the cause of the Mahdi. He is the Mahdi's executioner. He is the Mahdi's enforcer. He is the Mahdi's prophet. And it is he who kills the Antichrist. So right at the very end, somebody's going to say, I'm Jesus. Somebody else is going to say, I'm Jesus. Who are you going to believe? That's just one form of this deception that will show up at the end. And even now it's deceiving people. There are a whole world of Muslims who think Jesus is someone he is not, and consequently reject the true Jesus. Do not be deceived. There's a world of Muslims deceived about the person of Jesus Christ. You cannot accommodate that by saying, isn't it wonderful they love Jesus? They don't. Any other Jesus than the true Jesus is not Jesus. And if you worship any other than the true Jesus, you are cursed.